All right, let's dive into the world of the king cobra. We've got this incredible essay all about them. And honestly, I'm already like completely fascinated. You know how much I love anything nature, and these snakes are just full of mysteries.
Oh, they definitely challenge a lot of our assumptions about snakes in general. We'll be looking at, the stuff everyone knows, like the venom and the size, but also their surprisingly complex behaviors.
Okay, so let's just get the obvious out of the way first. Size. The king cobra is the world's longest venomous snake, up to 18 feet long.
Mm.
I mean, that's longer than a car.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive sight. And that size isn't just for show. It really dictates so much about their life. For example, think about how a snake that big hunts. They're not going after, little rodents. They go after much more substantial prey.
Which leads us to the whole snake eater thing. Ophiophagus literally means snake eater. I have to say, as someone who's not the biggest fan of snakes in general, that's both terrifying and kind of awesome. Like, they're the apex predator of the snake world.
Exactly. They're specialists, and that specialization is reflected in everything, from their anatomy to their behavior. Their venom, for example, has to be potent enough to take down other venomous
Oh,
snakes.
yeah. Let's talk about that venom. I mean, I know enough to be healthy, scared of any venomous snake, but the king cobra's in a league of its own.
Right. Their venom is primarily a neurotoxin, which means it attacks the nervous system. Now, in terms of toxicity per drop, it's not the absolute deadliest, but what makes the king cobra so dangerous is the sheer volume of venom they can inject.
Enough to kill an elephant, I've heard.
That's not just a myth. A single bite can deliver enough neurotoxin to kill an elephant, or about 20 adult humans. But here's the interesting thing. King cobras aren't particularly aggressive. They'd much rather avoid a confrontation if they can.
So all that size and venom, it's more about defense than offense.
Think of it as a very effective deterrent. When threatened, a king cobra will rise up, spread its hood, and hiss. It's a visual and auditory display meant to intimidate. And remember, each cobra has a unique pattern on its hood. It's almost like a personalized warning sign.
I love anything to do with animal communication. So you're saying that hood isn't just a random scary pattern. It's actually conveying specific information.
That's right. It's saying, I'm a king cobra, I'm this big, and I'm capable of injecting you with a lot of venom. Back off.
That's so cool. It's fascinating how evolution has led to such a clear communication system.
And it's effective. Most animals will definitely steer clear of a king cobra displaying like that. They really only bite as a last resort.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. The essay mentions that king cobras have excellent vision, which I thought was kind of unusual for snakes. I thought they mostly relied on scent.
Yeah, you're right. Most snakes do rely heavily on their sense of smell, but the king cobra is different. They can spot prey or danger from almost 300 feet away. That's about the length of a football field.
Wow, that's incredible. What kind of evolutionary pressures would lead to such sharp eyesight in a snake?
Well, think about their habitat. Dense forests. Being able to see clearly through all that undergrowth is a huge advantage when you're hunting, especially when your prey can be pretty sizable.
So it's not just about spotting the prey. It's about being able to track it through a complex environment. That makes sense. But it does raise another question. If their vision is so good, why do they still have that forked tongue? And the Jacobson's organ that other snakes use for scent detection?
That's a great question. While their vision is excellent for long-range detection, the Jacobson's organ lets them essentially taste the air, gathering much more detailed chemical information about their surroundings. This is particularly useful for things like tracking prey trails, identifying potential mates, or even discerning between different types of snakes.
So they've got long-range vision for spotting movement and a super sensitive smell-taste system for close-up investigation. Talk about sensory overload.
It's an impressive combination, and it really highlights just how well adapted these snakes are to their environment. But there's one thing about their behavior that really surprised me. It has to do with their reputation as solitary creatures.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Well, it turns out king cobras aren't always loners. They actually exhibit parental care, which is incredibly rare in the reptile world.
Wait, parental care? Are you telling me these fearsome snakes actually take care of their young?
Yes. The females build nests out of leaves and debris. They lay their eggs, and then they fiercely guard them until they hatch.
That's incredible. I always thought snakes were the ultimate lay 'em and leave 'em creatures. What are the evolutionary advantages of this kind of behavior for a snake?
That's a question that's fascinated biologists for a long time. You see, most reptiles simply bury their eggs and move on, but the king cobra invests a significant amount of time and energy in protecting its offspring.
So there must be a pretty significant payoff in terms of survival rates for the young.
Exactly. It seems that by guarding the nest, the female king cobra greatly increases the chances of her offspring surviving to hatching. This is especially important considering the relatively small number of eggs they lay, compared to other snakes.
It's amazing to see how natural selection has favored this behavior. In a species that we often associate with being cold and unfeeling.
It certainly challenges our preconceived notions about snakes. And speaking of challenges, king cobras face a number of threats in the wild, primarily from us humans.
Let's talk about that after a quick break. This deep dive is just getting started. We were just talking about how king cobras actually take care of their young, which is so unexpected for a snake.
It really is. It makes you wonder what other surprises they might be hiding.
You know what, you're right. We've talked about their impressive hunting skills, but we haven't really gotten into how they actually take down their prey.
Yeah, their hunting strategy is fascinating. It's this combination of speed, agility, and, of course, that deadly venom. They'll often chase down their prey, strike with lightning speed, and inject a large dose of neurotoxin.
So I'm picturing this high-speed chase through the undergrowth. It's almost like something out of a nature documentary, but way more intense.
And what's interesting is they usually release their prey after the strike and then track it as it succumbs to the venom.
Oh, that's smart. It avoids any potential injury from the prey fighting back.
Exactly. It's a calculated strategy that minimizes risk.
But once the prey is immobilized, how do they actually consume it? I mean, some of those snakes they eat can be pretty big.
Well, king cobras have incredibly flexible jaws that allow them to swallow prey much larger than their heads. They can literally unhinge their jaws.
Wow. So it's not just about overpowering their prey. It's about being able to literally engulf it.
And it's not just about size either. Remember, they're eating venomous snakes. And what's even more remarkable is that they seem to be immune to the venom of other snakes.
Seriously. Immune to venom. That's like a superpower. It's no wonder they're at the top of the food chain. But if their sense of smell isn't their primary tool for hunting, how do they find these other snakes?
Well, as we discussed earlier, they have excellent vision, but they also rely on their Jacobson's organ, which, as you said, is incredibly sensitive to chemical cues.
Wait, the whole tasting the air thing. It's amazing how they've evolved to exploit this niche in the ecosystem. But, we've been focusing a lot on their hunting prowess. I'm curious about their social lives. We know they're generally solitary creatures, but what happens during mating season?
Well, it's not exactly a romantic getaway. Male king cobras will often engage in ritual combat, wrestling with each other to establish dominance.
So it's a battle of the kings. What does that look like? Are we talking fangs and venom, or more of a wrestling match?
It's less about deadly combat and more about strength and strategy. They'll rise up, intertwine their bodies, and try to push each other to the ground.
And the winner gets the girl, so to speak.
Essentially, yes. The victor earns the right to mate with the female.
It's fascinating. It shows that even these solitary creatures have complex social dynamics. But I'm curious, after the mating season is over, do they just go back to their solitary lives?
That's right. The male goes his own way, and the female focuses on nesting and guarding her eggs.
It's amazing how they can switch between these different modes of behavior. Solitary hunter versus dedicated parent.
It really speaks to their adaptability and the complexity of their behavior. They're not just mindless eating machines, as some people might think.
They're intelligent, resourceful, and capable of surprising levels of care. And it makes you realize how much we still don't know about the animal world.
Absolutely. And with all the threats they face, it's more important than ever to understand them and protect them.
You're right. We've talked about their incredible adaptations, their hunting strategies, even their social lives. But what about their place in human culture?
Now that's a fascinating topic. The king cobra holds a truly unique place in human history and mythology. In many Asian cultures, they're revered as symbols of power, royalty, and even divinity.
I can definitely see why. Their size, their venom, their striking appearance, it all adds up to a pretty imposing image.
Exactly. They're seen as both fearsome and awe-inspiring. For example, in Hindu mythology, the king cobra is often depicted as a protector, associated with deities like Shiva and Vishnu.
So it's not just about fear and danger, there's also a sense of reverence and respect.
That's right. In some cultures, they're even believed to possess supernatural powers or act as guardians of sacred places.
It's incredible how these animals can take on such profound symbolic meaning for people.
It speaks to the power of nature to inspire awe and wonder. And the king cobra, with its unique blend of beauty and danger, clearly embodies that power.
As we've been talking about all these amazing adaptations and behaviors, it's easy to forget that these creatures are facing some very real threats in the modern world.
Unfortunately, that's true. Habitat loss due to deforestation and agricultural expansion is a major concern.
And I imagine poaching is also a problem.
Sadly, yes. King cobras are poached for their skin, meat, and traditional medicine, even though there's no scientific evidence to support those uses.
It's heartbreaking to think that these creatures are being exploited for profit.
It is. But there's hope. Conservation efforts are underway, and organizations are working to educate people about the importance of protecting these iconic snakes.
What kind of efforts are being made? Are there any success stories?
Well, the king cobra is protected under CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, which helped regulate the trade of endangered animals.
That's good to hear. But it's not just about laws and regulations, is it? It's about changing attitudes and behaviors.
You're absolutely right, and that's where education and awareness campaigns come in. By teaching people about the ecological importance of king cobras and the threats they face, we can foster a sense of respect and responsibility.
It's like we were saying earlier, these animals are a bridge between our world and the wild. And it's up to us to protect that bridge.
Beautifully said. By understanding their biology, respecting their place in the ecosystem, and supporting conservation efforts, we can help ensure the survival of this magnificent species.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've learned so much about the king cobra today, from their deadly venom and surprising parenting skills, to their profound cultural significance.
It's been a fascinating journey into the world of one of nature's most captivating creatures.
And it leaves me with a renewed sense of wonder and a deeper appreciation for the delicate balance of the natural world.
I hope so, because ultimately protecting the king cobra is about protecting ourselves and the incredible biodiversity of our planet.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this incredible adventure into the world of the king cobra.
Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.
Before the break, we were talking about all these amazing things about king cobras, but it's easy to forget they face some real threats.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. Habitat loss is a major concern.
And I imagine poaching too, right?
Sadly, yes. They're poached for their skin meat and even for traditional medicine, even though there's no real scientific evidence to support those uses.
It's so sad to think about these amazing creatures being exploited like that.
It is, but there is some hope. There are conservation efforts underway, and organizations are working to educate people about how important protecting these snakes is.
Well, that's good to hear. What kind of efforts are being made?
Well, for one, the king cobra is protected under CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species.
Oh, right, CITES.
Which helps regulate trade of endangered animals.
That makes sense. But it's not just about laws, is it? It's got to be about changing attitudes.
You're absolutely right. And that's where education comes in, teaching people about how important king cobras are to the ecosystem and the threats they face. Hopefully that helps people develop a sense of respect and responsibility.
It's like we were saying earlier. These animals are a bridge between our world and the wild. We have to protect that.
I like that. By understanding them better, respecting their place, supporting conservation, we can help ensure the survival of this incredible species.
That's a perfect note to end on. We've learned so much today. Their venom, their parenting skills, their place in culture.
It really has been quite a journey.
And for me, it's definitely sparked a new sense of wonder, a deeper appreciation for nature.
That's what we like to hear. Ultimately, protecting the king cobra is about protecting ourselves and the planet.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring.